My name is Amanda Johnson. I'm the founder and executive director of Torch Literary Arts. Torch Literary Arts is a local nonprofit that amplifies Black women writers. We support Black women writers from across the diaspora, so not just here in Central Texas, but literally around the world. But I'm so excited to be here tonight to celebrate Krystal Marquis and the Davenports. Round of applause for that.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, this program, I have to do a few thank yous. Of course, again, to Black Pearl Books. We love partnering with our local independent bookstores. Not only do you sell books and make literature available to our community, but you are a hub for people to come together, see one another, be in community, and celebrate our full lives through the wonderful magic of creative writing. Thank you so much, Katrina. We also want to thank our funders, the City of Austin Cultural Arts Division, the Birdine Johnson Foundation, the Poetry Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, and individual donors like you. As a nonprofit, of course, your donations are our lifeblood. So if you're able to give, there's brochures around on the table. Visit torchliteraryarts.org, and any amount would go a long way to help our work to amplify Black women writers. Again, we're so excited for our conversation tonight. We're going to start with a reading from the Davenports, but first, let me introduce our guest of honor, Krystal Marquis.
Thank you.
Krystal Marquis happily spends most of her time in libraries and used bookstores. Me too, sister. She studied biology at Boston College and the University of Connecticut, and now works as an environmental health and safety manager for an online retailer. A lifelong reader, Krystal began researching and writing on a dare to compete in the NaNoWriMo. Are you familiar with NaNoWriMo? NaNoWriMo is when you attempt to write a novel in 1 month.
Oh, wow.
And it is over 1,000 words a day. How many is it?
1,667.
Yes, and Krystal did that and came out with the first partial draft of the Davenports. That is incredibly impressive. I know so many failed attempts, my own included. Yes. So this is a success story of the NaNoWriMo. And when Krystal is not writing or planning trips to local bookstores to discover her next favorite romance, Krystal enjoys hiking, expanding her shoe collection, I see you, and plotting ways to create her own Jurassic Park. We're going to talk about that. But first, let's please welcome Krystal Marquis.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And Amanda, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
This is where if you want to read your section from the book, and then we'll be in conversation.
All right, sounds good. I will read from Olivia's chapter. It's her first one in the book. Want to avoid spoilers, but I think it's very fun and light, and it's kind of a introduction and a reminder of what happened in the events of book one. So I think it's a good place to start. All right. Olivia Elise Davenport, smile wide, watched her best friend greet the other guests. The centerpieces were shades of red roses, splashes of ruby's signature color everywhere. She'll be someone's wife, Olivia shook her head. This was the desired outcome after all they'd learned from their mothers and their governesses. Of course, it had been their parents' wish that the Tremaines and Davenports be united through marriage. And at one time, it had been Olivia's too. But to see the joy radiating from her friend, and to know that her own heart too, Olivia understood that such things could not come from planning or plotting. Her own course had been unexpected, yes, but Olivia knew her day would come, just not yet. From her spot under the tent, among the blooming pink flowers and neatly trimmed hedges, she watched the couple and allowed the image of Washington Dwight to fill her mind. His strong jaw, honey-colored eyes, and high cheekbones. She was transported back to where their evening on the restaurant rooftop, not long before he left Chicago. The air had been filled with the savory steam of food cooking below, and music from a nearby bar wafted on the crisp spring breeze. As the sun set, it filled Chicago's skyline with bright oranges and gold. He'd held her close, his cheek pressed against hers as they danced to the faint rhythm. She recalled the heat that had bloomed under the palm of his hand, splayed across her back. Her memory painted a clear picture, and his letters, the passion in each of them, each one ending with the same declaration of his affection for her, convinced her that the distance between them was only a physical sense. He signed them Until We Dance Again, WDW, which always made her smile. Recalling their first dance together, the glint in his eye, his mischief, how much their relationship had changed since they first met. She wondered if he kept her own letters. "So strange," said Helen. Olivia gasped. "Don't frighten me like that, Helen. How are you so quiet? I thought you went to go get cake." "The table's too crowded," Helen said, her eye eyeing their parents who had gathered around the desserts. Then her face split into a grin. "I'm quite like a cat. How else do you think I sneak off to the garage undetected?" Olivia snorted. They both knew she'd been caught more than once. Helen's eyes flitted across the spectacle. "To think, this was almost you, Livy. Good thing you have such a discerning taste." She pretended to ignore Olivia's look. "Though I expect Mama and Daddy would have turned your engagement into a party, into a circus." She sipped her sweet tea. Olivia stared at the sweating glass, her own throat dry. It was still hot, even as the sun lowered. As the crowd was large, consisting of Chicago's prominent families, all of them known to Mr. Tremaine in his efforts to run for mayor, and to the Davenports in their efforts to support him. All of these people, at what might have been her wedding. Olivia agreed with her sister about the circus part, but said, "I think they would have held mine at Freeport if I'd asked. In the ballroom, maybe made it more of an intimate affair." "And forgo your long-planned spectacle?" Helen handed Olivia her cold glass of tea. Olivia took a sip, grateful, and handed it back. The idea of her childhood dreams made Olivia smile. She glanced at her sister quickly. At one point, she and Helen had shared an affection for the same gentleman, Jacob Lawrence. He of the neat mustache and London family fortune, or so he'd let them believe. Olivia's engagement to him had been expected, but she had moved on from Mr. Lawrence before the truth came out. She'd found the right person for her in Washington Dwight. The outspoken Southern lawyer surprised her, challenged her, and from the very first meeting at Sampson House, when he'd passionately addressed the crowd, it was there that she'd begun working with Chicago's growing group of civil rights activists. But like she told Washington in her letters, she hadn't quite mustered the courage to take the stage as he did. For now, she followed the lead of others and volunteered when she could at the community center. It was something, just not enough. "Are you planning to leave now that Ruby's getting married? To join Mr. Dwight in Washington, D.C.? Helen's eyes had softened, but her gaze was steady. Olivia took in her sister, who looked so much like their father. Same proud nose and perceptive brown eyes. "No, not yet. He's only just arrived in Philadelphia, and my reasons for saying are still my reasons. Chicago is our home. There's so much work to be done, and I want to be a part of it." Though Chicago was not segregated like the South, there were spaces where the color line was evident, where citizens' prejudice bled into her everyday life, like simply shopping for fabric. "Life can't just be about work, Livy. What about love?" The question from her sister surprised Olivia, with Helen's heart so recently broken. Olivia thought about the city that given her parents a second chance, the opportunity for her and her siblings to thrive, the booming downtown, the arts, and the culture. Who said my decision wasn't about love? Before Helen could respond, Olivia saw John detach himself from a rowdy group of friends, his bearing serious. Gone was his easy smile and the dimple that set the girl's heart fluttering. "I'm ready to leave," he told his sisters. He shoved his hands in his pockets. His eyes searched the garden, looking for someone they knew was not there. "Thank goodness," said Helen, tipping her glass back. "Don't you think you should stay?" he teased. "If you leave me here, John, This is a party," Olivia interrupted. You are allowed to enjoy yourselves. You both are being rude." John held up his hands. "How am I being rude?" Helen smirked and answered first. "Because you're an eligible young man who hasn't danced with a single girl here. All of the mamas in the room are having a fit." My sincerest apologies to all the mamas, but I need to get out of here and back to the garage." He looked toward the door. Though they would not admit it, Olivia knew her brother and sister were throwing themselves into their interests instead of their feelings. A family trait. And the sooner the better. Livy, enjoy yourself. Don't forget to dance with your date. They all looked to Everett Stone, a Davenport carriage company lawyer who now spoke with their parents at the dessert table. Olivia felt her face pinch. She wasn't sure if Mr. Stone himself knew the strings her parents attempted to pull behind the scenes. His face was sharp, square angles, a chiseled sculpture of a man who garnered almost as much attention in public as she did. And that was the last thing she wanted, more attention. But the challenge in her sibling's eyes felt like a pebble in her shoe. You're right, said Olivia, smoothing her features and her pale yellow dress. It would be rude not to. With a pointed look at her brother, she walked to where Mr. Stone stood. He wore wire-framed glasses and tracked her movements with a curious gaze under thick, powerful brows. Despite Mr. Stone's quiet appeal and striking good looks, her parents' attempt to match her hindered her plans. Not only was she not enticed, and her mother knew it, but she thought she'd have more time to volunteer at the community center. Now she found herself at square one, entertaining in the family parlor under her mother's watchful gaze, which fell on her now. Olivia felt rather than saw Mr. Stone rustle beside her. His arm brushed hers, warm and solid. She caught a whiff of mint. It calmed and soothed her. Despite her parents' relaxed demeanor, goosebumps rose on Olivia's arms. Nearly as soon as Mr. Lawrence's letters had arrived for her family, excusing him for the rest of the summer for an emergency back home in London, Mr. Stone appeared at the place setting next to hers at the Davenport table. Olivia suspected her mother took her choice to stay in Chicago as a sign that she and the Alabama lawyer, Mr. Dwight, were through, and thoroughly as she and Mr. Lawrence were through. But to Olivia, Washington's train pulling away was not the end of their story. She did not know what the future held for them, but she knew her day would come, and she hoped when it did, it would be with Washington Dwight. She folded her arms against her chest now, seeing the way her parents studied her and her new suitor. The first thing she'd noticed that initial evening at dinner was how deliberately Mr. Stone held his knife and fork. She later realized that he did everything that way. He was not impulsive or animated. He was a lawyer like Washington, but unlike Washington, he was a lawyer for the carriage company and other black small business owners. Worthy work, but compared to Mr. Dwight, the complete opposite, she thought. She again pictured Washington with his disarming smile, smooth laugh, and that southern tilt that kept her and everyone entranced. Crowds had flocked to Sampson House or the steps of the courthouse to hear him speak, and to stand at his side to demonstrate their allegiance and discontent. Olivia had been one of them. In the days after he'd left, she had been inundated with letters from other activists who'd stayed in the city rather than traveling with Mr. Dwight to Philadelphia, and then on to Washington, D.C. They'd asked the same question she did. What next? Now that she settled beside her mother, Mr. Stone offered his hand. Would you like to dance, Miss Davenport? She glanced at her parents, who did a poor job at looking engrossed in their conversation. I'd like that. She tried to sound convincing as she took his hand awkwardly in hers. They joined other couples, including Ruby and Mr. Barton. Mr. Stone put a hand on her back and drew her into the gentle cloud of mint that enveloped him. His touch was light as he moved them smoothly over the uneven surface of the patio. Do you enjoy parties like this? He asked. Yes, said Olivia. I know some find them frivolous, but I do enjoy them. She followed Mr. Stone's gaze, which traveled around the space and settled back on her parents, her mother laughing at something her father must have said. When their eyes met again, the corners of Mr. Stone's perked up before focusing on where their hands met. This is my first at this level of, he paused, grandeur? It was kind of the Tremaines to invite me. Out of the corner of her eye, Olivia saw him nod as if to himself. I wouldn't call it frivolous if it allows two people to find a moment of peace and happiness. He chuckled. If I didn't know better, I'd say your mother blushed when your father kissed her hand earlier. Olivia couldn't help but smile. She had observed more than a few such moments over the years when they thought no one was watching. Her parents were more affectionate. Maybe they're just trying to ensure I have the same, she thought. though the idea didn't ease her mind, not given her present company. I think it's wonderful, Mr. Stone said, that you're surrounded by close family and friends. I do count myself lucky. Speaking of, John and Helen were nowhere to be seen. Not that Olivia needed them to witness her fun. Stop being so stiff, she chided herself. Olivia forced herself to relax to the music and follow Mr. Stone's lead. He seamlessly transitioned them from the slower number to the faster-paced song that followed. He was lighter on his feet than she imagined. For a moment, she lost track of the people around them and the warm night air that made her dress cling to her back. She let her thoughts fade and enjoyed the rhythm. When her heel caught in a gap in the brick patio, Olivia stumbled. Her world tilted and came to a sudden stop. Mr. Stone held her firmly in midair. His right hand splayed across her ribs while his other encircled her waist from behind. Olivia tilted her head up to see his brow furrowed above the brim of his glasses. Her lips parted slightly, his touch sending an unexpected jolt down her spine. Miss Davenport? His grip was firm and steady. Over his shoulder, she saw her parents studying this interaction. Are you all right? He asked. He lifted her, too high. Her toes grazed the ground. Yes, she said. You may put me down. He released her quickly. Forgive me, he said. He withdrew until only their hands touched, his still warm and assuring. He cleared his throat. Are you enjoying the celebration? She nodded. I'm very happy for Ruby. Olivia felt her mind clear. She stood straighter and stiffer, glancing up at Mr. Stone, allowing him to tuck her hand into the crook of his arm and escort her to her parents. The mint and leather scent of him mixed with the vibrant scent of the centerpieces that floated on the summer breeze. Together they made a pleasant combination. I very much enjoyed our dance, he said, turning to her. He still held her hand, nestled in the crook of his elbow. He looked at her steadily. Olivia straightened, and somewhat abruptly slid her hand away. Yes, a lovely dance. Thank you, Mr. Stone. She saw Ruby speaking with Agatha Leary and Bertha Wallace, plus an unfamiliar set of friends. Friends of Harrison's, no doubt. If you'll excuse me, she said, ignoring the disappointment that lit briefly on Mr. Stone's face as she turned and made her way back to the bride-to-be.
Fantastic. Cliffhanger, you've got to get the book to figure out what happens next. Oh my gosh, that was wonderful. Thank you, Krystal.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a few questions. We'll hold Jurassic Park till the end.
Okay. That's all right.
We've got a lot of great things to get in, and I'm intentionally not doing spoilers. So
okay.
I want y'all to make sure that you're reading the book and discovering these rich characters and storyline on your own. But back to how you got started. You shared that you started writing the novel on a dare.
I did.
Did you write before then, or?
I did. I had started writing a couple of stories, things that I was interested in. I read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. So those first little endeavors into writing were X-Men and Dark Angel fan fiction.
Love.
And it went with the science background that I had, learning about DNA and all that kind of stuff kind of influenced those early stories. But for the Davenports, that was more influenced by my desire to read a story like this and not being able to find it. Yes. And then also an article that I had read about C.R. Patterson, who is the inspiration for this book. So yes, the dare came from my brother. He was doing it and he's like, no, you should totally do this with me. Write the book you want to write during this time. We'll do it together. We'll support each other. And it ended up being a really great experience. I met a lot of other authors in the community online and got to learn about writing a story and learning that I really need an outline to complete a story. You can't just some stories, I heard of the Pantsers, you can just write start to finish and then fix it later. This story, especially with the 4 different points of view, it did require some planning. So that was one of the big takeaways from trying to do it during that 30 days.
Again, congratulations for rising to the challenge. That is not an easy challenge to undertake, but we all get the benefit from the seeds that were planted that month. So you mentioned the Davenports is inspired by a real life story, the of the Patterson family. How did you discover their story, and what made you want to turn it into this incredible fictionalized story?
Yeah, so I'm like a history buff, and I don't know if you do this, but like you click on something online and then you see like another window and it's like, oh, you can read this article. And I just went down a rabbit hole on the Smithsonian website, which great resource. And yeah, I saw a picture of Frederick Patterson, who is C.R. Patterson's son, standing in front of an automobile. He has a three-piece suit and a bowler hat. He looks very handsome, very dapper. And it says, first and only African-American owned automobile company.
Wow.
And I had not known that. And I thought that was really
First
interesting.
and only.
Yes, first and only.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that surprised me. I was like, I hadn't learned this in school, and it was something that interested me because I like cars too. I have a Mustang that my dad and I tinker with, and you know, enjoy going out summer drives with my mom, and you know, it's just like a fun car. And to realize that there was this company that existed that I hadn't heard of was very fascinating. And it was in my research about him, just like following those different links, I found out that he had 3 daughters. And I was like, oh wow, like he had a lot of wealth, he had some influence, and he had his son who eventually took over the business, but he also had 3 daughters who would have benefited from this life of privilege that he could have given them. And there wasn't a lot of information about them. So it's like I decided to write what I imagined their lives would have been like. So the Davenports are inspired by maybe these women growing up, falling in love for the first time, and having these passions that they want to follow. And not only do they have like that sense of privilege from their father's wealth, but they also have the reality of being Black in America during this time period.
And we need stories of prosperous Black families.
Yes.
They do exist. We do exist. You know, I think about in contemporary times now too. There's a lot going on in Central Texas. Gentrification is real. A lot of neighborhoods changing. And the first thing that is attributed to that is, oh well, cost of living. And I have to remind folks, no, we have money. We also have money and can decide where we want to live. So that's not the only reason why people might be making decisions about where they want to live. But I digress. So I love the story of Black prosperity and amplifying that. But we also have some rich and juicy characters in here. And we've got some romance. You know, we get to learn more about them. I think you might have answered a little bit of my next question. But I was going to say, tell us a little bit more about the women in this story and which one you identify most with.
Ooh, that's a tough question. I feel like it changes like month to month, or like where I am in my own life, who I identify with. But yeah, so there's 4 points of view. There's Olivia, who is the eldest of the Davenport daughters. She's very much wants to please her parents, so she kind of follows down the path that they laid out for her until she meets a young lawyer from the South who is trying to bring activism and rally people towards, you know, fighting the Jim Crow legislation that is slowly making its way north. And then her younger sister, Helen, is the baby of the family, and she very much feels like she can kind of get away with anything. And what she wants to get away with is working in the garage with her brother on the carriages and the automobiles that he brings home.
When you mentioned the Mustang, I said, ooh, maybe that's the one.
So for her, she sees these gender norms and she knows that she doesn't follow through with them, but she does have the support of her brother who kind of like takes her under her wing, but she has this like mindset for business and for engineering that really like is her passion. Ruby is Olivia's best friend, and she is she was a lot of fun to write. She's very impulsive. She's in love with John at the start of book 1, but kind of has her plan goes awry. She tries to have a fake dating relationship that kind of sparks real feelings. And last is Amy Rose, who grew up with the Davenport siblings as a friend and then as a maid in the household. So for her, her dream has always been outside of that, trying to make something for herself and not being dependent on other people. And she is inspired by Madam C.J. Walker. So yes, her entrepreneurship was very inspiring. So I brought that into Amy Rose's character.
Again, I love the success stories, the possibilities, the ingenuity that is a part of this. Also, period piece, you know, and we get to fantasize about an actual time in history, see these characters come to life and know that they were, families like this existed. But then also, I think there's something to be appreciated, especially in times like now where, you know, we're facing some challenges as a society. So to be able to, they call it escapism, but I say lean in. Lean into joy, enjoying a good read, a juicy story, but also knowing that it is rooted in history is really special.
My favorite kinds of stories are ones that you can learn from and have fun.
Absolutely. So what are some, or is there anything that surprised you when writing book 2 in the series?
Book 2. That's a hard one. About history in general, or
no, just
about myself?
When I'm writing, I find that, you know, I'll have a plan, a loose plan, and then I get surprised by something that characters or the story starts telling me, no, we're going this way.
Oh, yes, I definitely had that. There's like 3 other versions of this book, like on my hard drive, because I would start writing the story one way, and like Ruby, true to character in book 1, like she made decisions that had me rewrite like the last third of the book. This one, she made a few decisions that had me rewrite. But also this time, Olivia made some decisions. I think for her, like just continuing to grow in her activism and like trying to figure out what she wants to do. Like she doesn't want to leave Chicago, she doesn't want to leave her family, but she also wants to make a difference. So just seeing her develop and find another outlet to do that was very surprising because it wasn't something that I had initially planned for her story. So that was like really great.
I love that. All right, and my last question, well, second to last, because we're going back to Jurassic Park. What do you hope readers take away from the series as a whole?
So I would say, I would hope that they take away that following your passion is something that you should put like above, I don't want to say all else because you should always go for love too, but I don't want people to be discouraged from following their passions. I don't want other people's opinions to hold people back. I think for the girls, a lot of them, they felt pressure from their parents and from society and like what others might say. For Ruby, there's rumors going about her that is kind of discouraging and makes her feel like that she might not deserve the happy ending that she wants. And I just want people to like find their joy, hold on to it, and don't let like outside noise come and take it away from you.
I love that. That is a great takeaway from the books. All right, so what is up with Jurassic Park? You want to build your own Jurassic Park? Are you like literal with that? Because you did go to school. Are you like messing with DNA? Do you have
No.
You know,
I don't
eggs?
have a lab in the basement or anything like that. No. I just find it fascinating that they're able to, like, the theory of pulling ancient DNA from fossils and learning, there's like so much DNA can tell you about like what animals look like and how they lived, and just not be able to like piece that together with just what we think in our imagination, but like using something concrete and then looking for relatives in the modern day world and how they like equate to like maybe birds or lizards that are still here. So that's, I feel like that's really cool. Like if Jurassic World was a place, like I would totally buy a ticket and go. Yeah.
I love that. I think that every time I pass a chicken, I see a chicken somewhere. Aren't they like Tyrannosaurus Rex? Evolved into the chicken.
They're tasty, so it's
very, very tasty and a lot less threatening. I don't know. Those beaks and claws are sharp though.
I don't know. I still think chickens are kind of scary.
They can be for sure.
I wouldn't want to be in a flock of them.
No, not coming towards you. Absolutely not. No. Let's ask some questions from the audience. Anyone have any questions?
Your dress is really pretty, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I'm curious, when you're writing the characters in this book, I guess what's your process? Is there a day you spend like just writing Ruby? or then another day writing Olivia. Like, what's your process from writing from all these different points of view?
I don't break it up by days, but I kind of try and complete each girl's chapter before I move on to the next, unless I'm like completely stuck. I have a very detailed outline of what happens in each chapter, so as long as they were behaving, I was able to move on to the next one pretty seamlessly. And as far as like writing from their voice, I have like a very detailed OneNote that I have different tabs for each character, and for different places. Like in my research, I had like different restaurants, their menus. I had maps of Chicago.
Wow.
I had different technology. My favorite part was like all the Pinterest boards with the clothing, like because I love shopping. So for me, I had tried to keep it as organized as I could so that I wouldn't get stuck. But if I did find myself getting stuck, I took a break. I read something fun, fluffy, outside of the historical fiction genre. But I found that trying to complete each chapter before I like paused, or finding a good spot within that chapter to stop. Like, okay, I know this is the next scene I want to write, but I'm gonna stop here so that when I come back to it, it's like instantly I can jump right in instead of trying to start fresh. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Not related to the book.
Yeah.
What are you currently reading?
What am I currently? Okay, so I'm reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is very fun. I was talking earlier about how I don't usually read contemporary unless I'm like taking a break from my own writing. I tend to read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, so it's been very fun reading like adult romance and just something that's like fun and lighthearted. I love their snarky banter back and forth, so yeah, that's really fun. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you.
If the girls were in this time period, what jobs would they each have?
Ooh, okay, thank you. That's a great question. So I think for Olivia, she would probably be a lawyer working with activism. Helen, definitely an engineer. I can see that she has that like brain for just machines and how they work and like improving things, like really innovative. Ruby would be an influencer. Like she loves fashion and she loves attention, so that would be her role. And then Amy Rose, I'd like to think that she is doing something pretty similar to the Davenports, that she is a business owner that's catering to Black and brown women, their hair, and like building their confidence. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Did you struggle writing like 1910s dialogue? Like, did you ever feel like they were talking like too modern-y? I don't know.
A couple of times I found like a phrase that like I really wanted to use, but I knew it was modern, so that I had to like mark it and be like, find the equivalent for that, and like Google it. I found trying to read books during that same time period helped a lot. It was kind of like someone that already done the work, so just borrow that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun trying to research things and like watching old movies. Like that kind of helped put me in the right mindset of like how they would phrase things. But yeah, sometimes it was hard to like get that modern speak like out of the story. And then using words that like aren't popular yet. I think like in the first version of like the Davenports, they used to say dilly dilly a lot, but like that was like 5 years too early. So it's like finding another equivalent slang word that people would use. That was kind of difficult. It's like can't be above the trends. Oh.
Great question. Anyone else?
I'm always curious about like the type of tense people write in, or I don't know if tense is the right word, I can't think of it now, but like first person, third person, all that kind of stuff. Is there a specific reason why you decided to write the book in third person? I'm just curious.
I think it was easier to do that with the different points of views. So like I wanted something where you kind of knew what the girls were thinking, but I think it would be too confusing if it was first person because there would be too many people saying I throughout the story. But I think that having the different point of views kind of helped because each girl has a slightly different background and they kind of see Chicago and the other characters differently. And that kind of helped bring more people to life and get more dimensional. I like to think of like John that way, because John doesn't have any of his own chapters, but like everyone has a pretty good idea of who John is and how he reacts, because you kind of see him through the perspective of each of the girls. So I think that way that kind of helped.
Was it intentional not to give John a chapter, or?
Yeah. Like John kind of grew into his like own person as I was drafting and editing. Like he was the love interest, but he was kind of like off to the side, and it was really the relationship of the girls and them falling in love and like pursuing their dreams. That was my focus. But he became like larger than I expected as the girls kind of spoke about him, and he kind of connected them all together because they have such strong relationships with him. But yeah, it was mostly like girl power and like friends and just looking at the female perspective, because like I said, the Patterson girls didn't really have a lot about them. I couldn't find a lot of information about them. So like I wanted something to center like the women's perspective of this time period. And John just came along for the ride. Or maybe he was driving the party bus, who knows?
Is there going to be a third Davenports?
Ooh. So right now it's the 2, but I would love, 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 love to write another one. There's someone asked me like, oh, do you like the ending? I'm like, I don't think I wrote an ending. I think I wrote a new beginning. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that. All right. Well, if that's all the questions, thank you so much, Krystal.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Of course, we have books for sale, so make sure you get copies of both of the books and get them signed while Krystal is here. Do enjoy the snacks. Take them home for later. I want you to enjoy those. And do visit Torch Literary Arts online, torchliteraryarts.org, to learn more about the work we do here in Austin and around the world supporting Black women writers. Thank you again to Black Pearl Books. We love our independent bookstores. Come back and follow them online as well for future events. A lot of great things happening here.
Yes. Thank you.